Happy Friday and welcome to another edition of Freeze Dry Friday. I have two things here to show you. The first is a dish that I recently made on my Tasty Tuesday segment, and that is Utica Greens. However, I made a double batch and said I was hoping to be able to get some of it freeze dried because I don't have anything like this freeze dried and I want to try it out, but there were no leftovers. After 3 days, it was completely gone because this is utterly amazing. I will post a link up here to that video because you should seriously give this a try. It is phenomenal. It's even better the second day, but there were no leftovers and I'm kind of glad because I did use a lot of oil in making this. So I made it again. I made it again yesterday just for this purpose. And so I tweaked how I made that. I went with a cooking white wine instead of oil to get everything sauteed. I cut back on the bacon and I made sure that I completely rendered that out, and then I dumped the bacon grease off, which I typically do. I save the bacon grease so I can use it to cook with. And so right now I've got about this much in a pint-sized jar, and that either just stays on my counter if I am using it frequently or I pop it into the fridge, but it is a nice source of fat to have on hand to cook with, so just a tip there. And the fat from pasture-raised pigs is loaded with vitamin D, which we all need more of, especially if you live north of the equator line. We don't get enough vitamin D, which is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone essential for the proper functioning of literally your entire body. So I do save that. So I did, like I said, I did tweak this so that there is very little to no fat in here. There is still bacon in there, but like I said, it's completely rendered down. So I am excited to see how this turns out. I will rehydrate this as soon as it's done so we can see how it did turn out. And I'll rehydrate it with water, but then I will heat it up in a skillet and I will add back in just a little bit of fat, probably that bacon fat, just because it's a saute. So I want to infuse some flavor in there. So we'll see how that does. Over here, I have some peppers from the garden and onions as well. And I don't know about you, but I tend, especially at the end of the season, I tend to get kind of a couple peppers from this plant and a couple peppers from that plant, and it's not a lot to use to do any type of preservation like canning or something of a specific item. So I thought, why not saute these and have sauteed peppers and onions ready to go for fajitas or steak sandwiches or something like that. This was really easy to throw together. You can see I've got a lot of peppers here. This is a mix of just some frying peppers, some green jalapenos, red jalapenos, orange and yellow jalapenos, some shishito pepper, some serrano peppers, and some sweet bell peppers. Just all sorts of different peppers from the garden. I'm using a white cooking wine and some water to saute these in, and I'm also adding just a little bit of salt and pepper. And I am frying these in 2 batches, and in each batch I am waiting until all of that liquid has been completely cooked off or absorbed by the peppers and the onions, and then just loading them onto the freeze dryer tray where I just let them sit and just cool down. They take about maybe an hour to cool down, and then I get them into the freezer. So this second batch is a little bit larger. I'm using a little bit more of that cooking wine and a little bit more of that water, and then just stirring the pan every couple of minutes until they're done. And again, I am looking at the liquid level there, and I just keep checking that and keep doing this until that liquid is completely gone, and then just get the trays loaded up and ready for the freeze dryer. I am super excited about this. This is, I think, gonna be phenomenal. I did taste these. They have excellent flavor, and I am really excited to be able to use these in some Mexican dishes. And again, in those steak sandwiches, I do plan on making a Philly cheesesteak type dish for an upcoming Tasty Tuesday, and I will plan to use these in that. So if you want to see these used, stay tuned for that. Let's get these over to the freeze dryer and get them loaded in. Freeze dryer is ready to go. It's been cooling down for almost 19 minutes. So I can go ahead and get the trays loaded in, give you a close-up look. So here are the Utica Greens. Like I said, I did not use oil in this, so for the breadcrumb and cheese mixture that is running through here, I did not add any oil to that, and therefore I did not do the oven bake, the 2-minute oven bake on this when it was done cooking. And that's another reason why I will add some fat in when I go to rehydrate this. I also used fresh peppers instead of marinated. Second tray of that. Got some beautiful peppers and onions. Again, this is a mix of sweet and hot and frying peppers. Super excited about this. Tray number 2. So that is a lot of sauteed peppers and onions. And a great way to preserve some of the late garden harvest. All right, once the food is loaded in, I just need to close the drain valve, press continue on the machine, and let it do its thing. It's going into a freezing process right now. That's not gonna take too long because this is frozen. Then it's gonna go into its sublimate phase where it's extracting all of the liquid from the food in the form of gas, bypassing the liquid state, which is how this food is going to maintain its shape and its structure and its size. And that's the big difference between freeze drying and dehydrating. We don't have any cellular damage whatsoever. Then it's gonna go into a dry phase and then an extra dry phase. I have this set at a 15-hour extra dry phase. I think that's gonna be enough time, but we will check it when these are done, and I will see you then. We're back. Now, these went for just under 46 hours total in the freeze dryer. That was with an extra 15 hours of dry time, plus I threw on another 8 or so hours last night. These were gonna be done between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, and I worked my day job until almost midnight last night, and I did not wanna wait another couple of hours just to take these out, get them packaged up, and like I said I was gonna do, get them hydrated and cooked up in the skillet at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I just threw some extra dry time on there, about 46 hours in all, and these should be totally good to go. So we have our Utica greens, super excited about that, as well as our sauteed peppers and onions, also really excited about this. I've got 2 little bowls here because I'm going to get both of these rehydrating early so we can give them a cook and see how they came out. So just a little serving of each. I made sure I got peppers, onions, bacon, and of course the greens in here for the Utica greens. And I'm going to go ahead and do the peppers too, because why not? We'll do a few peppers. And as you can hear, these are completely dry. All right, now I've got some hot water here in my kettle. I just personally think that hot water works a whole lot better when rehydrating, especially if you've got stuff with some fat in it, which over here we've got the bacon, and even though it is pretty rendered out, still has some fat. Okay, we're gonna let those soak while we get these packaged up, and then we are gonna drain them and give them a try in the skillet. I've got glass here to put these in today because I think the peppers and the onions I'm gonna be grabbing from all winter long to use. So certainly can get away with glass on that. And the Utica greens, I wanna keep an eye on them because of the bacon. So I'd rather not have them in Mylar. This is the first time I've done them, or bacon per se. So I would like to just have them out where I can check on them. Maybe for the first year or so, and make sure that everything is looking good. It's not getting fuzzy, it's not getting soft looking. I know that with the fat content, it's more of a rancid risk that you're running, but I can, pull out a little bit of this and test it over the course of the year just to make sure. And as I'm kind of breaking these up a little bit, I am feeling for any cold spots, and I'm not feeling anything. These are, in my opinion, they are totally dry. Not at all worried about moisture. Hopefully I can get 1 tray per half-gallon glass jar here. That worked out well. So I'm just gonna stick a lid on this one. This is the one I will keep in my kitchen that I can just test from, but I think that came out looking great. I'm just gonna write on here, Utica Greens. I always write on my glass with a black Sharpie pen because black Sharpie stays on glass until you wash it off with soap and water. So it is the perfect way for me to mark my jars. I like to see what's on them as I'm looking straight at them versus having to look at, maybe writing the label on top of the lid. And it also saves me from having to buy those cute little labels, which I do have some, but I save those and use them when the contents of my jar are so dark that I wouldn't be able to see a black marker, like with black beans. All right, I'm gonna set this aside. And let's get the second tray into this half-gallon jar. And this half-gallon jar I'll put up in my pantry, so that one will be my tester. And that way this one I can suck all the air out of this jar. I think that's gonna be a perfect amount for this jar, for both jars. Let's hope we're as lucky with the peppers and onions. Oh yeah, that's great. All right, I'm gonna put a lid on here temporarily. I'll get the air sucked out of there in a few minutes. Let's go for some peppers and onions. Just wanna make sure these are gonna come up. Yeah, they're fine. Okay. We can get those dumped in. By the way, these smell incredible. They smell really good. Even though I didn't use any oil or anything to saute them, they smell fantastic. And I did slice them pretty thin, probably about the same size as like a shoestring potato. A little tighter on fit in this jar. Got a little bit left on this tray here. Excellent. That's a very lovely jar as well. Be interesting to see the contrast between this and my just freeze-dried peppers, no saute. I think I've got some right up here, so we'll take a look at that as well. All right, last tray. Let's hope I can fit that all in there. Well, I can always rehydrate more if I need to keep some out of the jar. getting pretty full. Let's hope these all fit. Got my little buddies down here. Whenever I am putting away freeze-dried food, they just come running. They don't care what it is. It could be fruit, it could be potatoes, it could be meats, it could be whatever. They hear this sound, this crunchy sound, the sound of the funnel, and they know that I'm typically dropping pieces, and they are all over it trying to get some tasty morsels as a snack. I do freeze-dry snacks for them, and I've done a video on that. I freeze-dry the beef, heart, tongue, and liver that I get by asking my butcher for it, or my farmer for it actually, when I order my annual beef. And it's almost time to do that order again, which is good because we are almost out of those freeze-dried treats for them. We did it. We got them all packaged in. All right, I am gonna get my air sucker onto these in just a minute, but let's take a look at the rehydrated bowls, and let's get those into the pan and get them cooking. All right, here are the peppers and onions. They look fantastic. They feel pretty soft. I think that those are good to go. Here's our Utica greens. Those also feel like they're good and rehydrated. So we're gonna get going. The first thing I'm gonna do is I've just got this little cloth napkin here because I'm gonna be using fat in the pan. And by the way, let me get this pan turned on. And we're gonna get a little bit of fat in there. This is the saved bacon grease. It's probably a lot, but that's okay. I'm going to take the peppers out of here. Normally I wouldn't do it this way, but I'm not gonna sit here and let these drain through a colander for 20 minutes or whatever. So I'm just going to pat them dry because water and the fat in the pan is going to make for a splattery and loud mess. It looks like we lost a lot of our pepper in here, probably our salt as well. It smells really good though, really good. All right, let me get those just patted dry a little bit. Perfect. Let me get this oil kind of brushed around the pan. It is just barely enough to cover the whole pan, so I think we're good on the amount of fat in there. I said oil, I didn't mean that oil. It's fat. Okay, and now I'm just gonna drop these peppers in. That looks incredible. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the Utica greens. Just going to kind of spoon them out. Dry them off a little bit. And get them into the pan. And we're just cooking them back up a little bit. So if I was making this for a meal, to rehydrate as a meal, I would just throw them in a skillet, get them warmed back up, putting back in just a little bit of flavor with the fat. You could use olive oil, you could use avocado oil, you can use whatever you want. I just had that bacon grease available, and since this has bacon in it, I thought that that would be an appropriate way to get these cooked up. And on the peppers, well, it's fine. I would probably normally just do olive oil or avocado oil on the peppers. And in less than a minute, we are ready to go. Utica Greens. Oh, these even have some really nice charred color on them now. Super excited about these peppers. All right, let's give those a taste. I think that this is perfect to have on the shelf, and I'm super excited to try this one as well. I'm gonna let them cool off for just a minute here. I wanted to show you, this is the contents of the peppers we just did. So these are the spicy sauteed peppers and onions. You can see the color on there. And then these are what's left of my sliced sweet peppers from 2 years ago that I've just had on my shelf here in the kitchen. I grab from as I need. They're perfectly fine in this glass jar. There's no oxygen absorber in here. I do not suck the air out of here every time I open it. They are still totally dry, totally good. And then our Utica Greens. That is lovely in a jar as well. All right, so side by side, you can see these totally do look as if they have been cooked, and these totally do look like they're raw. All right, let's try the peppers first. And onions. I keep saying peppers. It's peppers and onions. And remember, some of these are super spicy peppers. Oh my goodness. These are amazing. You cannot tell that these have been freeze-dried. They are perfect. They are so delicious. The texture is good. The flavor is out of this world. Everything about this is absolutely delicious. This is going to be an absolute must every single year with peppers and onions from my garden. This is one of the best things I think I've ever done. From a taste, texture, easy to rehydrate and eat. I'm just gonna eat a bowl of hot, spicy peppers and onions. Wow. That is an A+. A++. Please do that. Try that. If you have a freeze dryer, please do that. It is a little bit spicy. Like I said, there is a mix of all different types of peppers. So there is a bit of a kick to that. Use sweet peppers if you'd like, or just a few hot peppers. All right, let's try these Utica Greens. You can see I've got some bacon, I've got some of the hot peppers, and of course the onions and the greens in here. So I'm gonna start with some greens. Oh, yes. It's not 100% the same as when I cook it and eat it and not freeze dry it. And that's because there's a lot of cheese and breadcrumbs and oil running through, as well as I don't completely render off the bacon. I typically will leave most of the, or at least some of the bacon fat in the pan to cook the greens in, which of course I did not do for this. But wow, this is still amazing. Oh, the bacon. Wow. It's got a crunch to it. I was gonna say maybe that's because it's not fully rehydrated, but it's not like that airy crunch where, no, I think it's fully rehydrated. I think it's just, still firm bacon because it was crispy when I made it. Let's try another bite. Yeah. Wow. All right. This I will definitely be doing again, even just for the freeze dryer. Usually I will throw a little bit of leftovers onto trays as I'm doing my freeze dryer loads because I do tend to cook in. Dog saw a squirrel. Had to run outside. Oh, this one hurt him, has to run outside too. I I usually cook in larger quantities because that's just what I do, always have, and so I usually have leftovers. I've been cutting back on the quantities though, so not quite as many leftovers. These are both a win. Completely amazing. All right, last bite. Got to get some of those hot peppers on there. Pretty much clean both of those bowls, and that's my breakfast. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Freeze Dry Friday, sauteed peppers and onions and sauteed greens edition. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.